be you a star. To be what you must just reach out for what you are. And though you try.
Much love to the group. Much love to the bricks. These are the breaks. Pump hard. We must go. Much love is a movement, not a show. They trying to stop us. We will not be stopped.
Constructive conversation. That's one thing that is woefully lacking all over the world, and particularly here in the Northwestern Hemisphere, and particularly among people of color, particularly people who are classified as black. Constructive conversation is woefully, painfully lacking all day long. You hear conversations or arguments mostly, and you try to say, now what is constructive about this? What am I listening to here on this bus? And there's someone on a phone back on the bus talking to the top of their voice, screaming, yelling. And is this constructive conversation? In other words, constructive conversation means when that conversation or that talk, you can't sometimes call it conversation, sounds like an argument all the time, an argument. We should never have arguments. We should always have conversations. Conversations are designed to come to a conclusion that's going to solve a problem in the best possible manner. An argument is just designed to win an argument or to generate another argument that's designed to win an argument. So it just goes on and on and on, and it escalates hostility. That's what an argument does. It brings on greater and greater and greater hostility. And from the hostility comes conflict, greater verbal conflict, meaning the conversation gets to be name calling and accusations and counter accusations. Next thing you know, that leads to what? A fight.
Yeah, a fight.
And what does the fight lead to? It leads to killing, which black people have plenty of. But if we had constructive contact, we would just make sure anything that I say is going to have a constructive result. Otherwise, I'm not saying it.
Yes, sir.
And the way you avoid non-constructive conflict, and most conflicts are non-constructive, is you don't engage in anything but constructive contact. And usually you do that through words. So if you don't have anything constructive to say, try to do your best not to say anything at all. Silence. Black people in the Northwestern Hemisphere need tons and tons and tons and tons of absolute silence. Nobody's saying anything, period. We're not very, you might say, to use the word good, we're not very good at it. We're not very good at it at all, at all, at all. It's just terrible. If you just, we make eye contact. All of our contacts are just loaded with hostility because we are very poisonous people. The system of racism has just loaded all of us up with poison. And we can't look at each other without, hey, we want to get something wrong. What do we mean by that? behind it, what you looking at me for? Or in the grocery line. I mean, you can almost feel the tension as the baskets begin to form between people and whatnot. If anybody makes eye contact, you got to watch out. Is this going to be a gunfight situation? I mean, you can almost feel it coming. You can feel it coming. We have this thing. This is why for years I said when black people see each other coming, they should go the other way. I mean, I'm talking about 2 blocks away, so that their paths don't even cross. So that they don't even get in contact, don't even get close enough to each other to talk. Well, when I first started saying that back in the 1990s, people would laugh, but at the same time, it was nervous laughter. Because many people said, that's kind of true of us. I mean, even when we spot each other 2 blocks away, we start forming opinions and getting it in our mind that if we come anywhere close to each other, we're supposed to get our fist balled up. A couple of years ago, a young fellow was getting on the subway. Mm-hmm. No, he was passing by a bus stop, and another young black male was standing there with his grandmother. And he said, "What you looking at me for? You don't know me. What you keep looking over here for? You got something for me? You got something for me?" And then he pulled out his gun and killed the guy. Mm. And the boy wasn't even looking at him. The boy was looking at something down the street that his grandmother was trying to point out. Mm. Looking past him. Mm-hmm. But he died right there at the bus stop. That type of thing. I mean, we are loaded with poison. We are just loaded with it. You can feel it walking up on a bus stop. And already there's 5 or 6 black people huddled together there. You can almost feel it. Hey, I need to walk past this bus stop. I don't even need to stand here with us. Because something ugly is going to happen. Somebody's going to say something ugly. And then that's going to add to some more ugliness. And the next thing you know, you got a small riot between 5 and 6 people on a bus stop. Whereas if they didn't come in contact with each other at all, which is real healthy for black people. See, in other words, I've often said, hey, the black person who is about to explode and whatnot, let's transfer that black person from what we call the ghetto to where he or she is surrounded by nothing but white folks. There's a whole bunch of white faces, little old white ladies pushing a shopping cart, white people walking their dogs. I mean, that black person becomes more thoughtful, more considerate, and quieter. It comes down to a definition. What is black culture? Culture is whatever you're doing at the time that you're doing it. So you can say black culture is, or raise the question, is a drive-by shooting a part of black culture? That's a question. And, codification is about being exact. So you try to be exact, you try to be focused, you try to be clear, and you come right to the point. That's what counter-racist codification has to be. So let's ask a question. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers, according to the counter-racist code. So you say, is a drive-by shooting a part of black culture, a significant part of black culture? And the answer is either yes or no. Now, from what I have heard, the answer is yes. Because what is culture? What is anybody's culture? Culture is only what you're doing at the time that you're doing it. That's your culture. Culture is not some mysterious thing that you find buried somewhere in some graveyard, and you go and dig up some bones, and you say, Eureka! Today, on this day, I discovered My culture. Now, a lot of people look at culture like that. It's something mysterious. And when they say black culture, for years, people will say, oh, you're talking about going and digging down about 1,500 feet below the Great Pyramid. And if you're lucky, you just might discover black culture. No, that's not what culture is, logically speaking. Culture is whatever you are doing at the time you are doing it. If you're paddling a canoe down a river, paddling a canoe down the river is your culture. The minute that you get out of that canoe, put that paddle down, and start walking across the land, canoe paddling is no longer your culture. Why? Because that's not what you're doing. Now that's what you call compensatory logic. That's not popular logic, but that's logic that's supposed to be based on what? The truth. The truth is, whatever you're doing at the time that you're doing it, that's your culture. So, in answer to the question, do a lot of people copy black culture? Yes, and black people copy a lot of other people's culture. Because black people, I don't think, invented 9mm drive-by shooting. I don't think any black person came up with that idea. But we do a lot of it. So that's a part of black culture. So if the question is, why do people copy black culture? And why do I say that black culture is a failed culture? And I stick by that. It's because I was told in the early 1960s and late 1950s that black culture is supposed to get black people out from under the conditions that they're in. That's the purpose for it. That's why you call it black culture. But then I say, if you measure it by that and give it that definition, black culture, what it's supposed to do, it's a failed culture. Okay. Why? Because it failed to deal with racism. That's why.
Much love is a movement. Doing it for the culture. Keep your right foot and your left foot together. Don't let them separate it. The good foot is both feet. They say don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing, but they got to come together at one point in time.